Quick cuts build tension. A pot boils over fiercely on a stove. Close up on Layla's face, eyes wide with overwhelmed panic. A toddler screams, pulling her leg. A work phone rings aggressively. Layla's expression hardens instantly from panic to pure, burning rage. She slams a ladle onto the counter. Boom! A shockwave of fiery orange smoke and angry sparks blasts outwards from her body, engulfing the screen in a hellish red glow. The scene opens, with Layla finally walking through the front door of her home after a grueling, endless day at work. The late afternoon light is fading fast, casting long, gloomy shadows across the entryway. She looks utterly depleted. Her shoulders are slumped forward under the weight of a heavy work tote and overflowing grocery bags, and her taupe hijab is slightly askew. She steps inside, desperate for a moment of sanctuary, but is immediately bombarded by domestic chaos. The living room is a veritable disaster zone. Toys are scattered like minefields across the floor. Discarded shoes block the hallway, and a leaning tower of unopened mail sits menacingly on the coffee table. The air feels stale, warm, and suffocating. From the kitchen, the distinct, acrid smell of something burnt wafts out, and a quick glance shows the sink overflowing with dirty, crusty dishes from breakfast. A deep, shuddering sigh of pure, defeated weariness escapes her lips. She drops her heavy bags with a loud thud that echoes in the tense silence. The sheer volume of tasks waiting for her feels physically crushing, tightening her chest. As she stands there, paralyzed by overwhelm, a faint, subtle wisp of smoky, charcoal-colored haze begins to curl around her ankles, and a low, dangerous, vibrating heat begins to radiate from her solar plexus, signaling the beginning of the internal simmer. Moments later, Layla is in the kitchen, moving frantically, trying to salvage a burnt dinner while simultaneously attempting to reply to urgent work emails on her phone with one hand. Her energetic 4-year-old daughter, Sophia, oblivious to the tension, runs laughing into the kitchen, chasing a bouncing ball. In a split second of clumsiness, Sophia trips right over Layla's feet and crashes headlong into a small side table, knocking over a full, tall glass of bright red pomegranate juice. The glass shatters with a loud, jarring crash on the tiled floor, and the dark, vibrant red liquid splashes violently everywhere, coating the clean white cabinets, pooling on the floor, and soaking the hem of Layla's only clean pair of tailored work trousers. Time seems to screech to a halt for Layla. She stares down at the spreading red stain, which looks sickeningly like blood in the harsh overhead kitchen light. The exhaustion in her body instantly calcifies into rigid, brittle tension. Her jaw clenches so hard her teeth ache, and her hands ball into tight fists at her sides, knuckles turning stark white. Her breathing becomes shallow, rapid, and hot. The faint charcoal haze around her suddenly thickens, turning a menacing, glowing ember red. Tiny, sharp orange sparks begin to crackle audibly around the edges of her hijab. The internal heat rises exponentially, pushing her perilously close to the edge of total loss of control. Just as Layla is standing frozen over the broken glass and red mess, vibrating with barely suppressed rage, the front door opens and her husband, Ahmed, walks in. He is also tired from his own long day and completely unsuspecting of the volatile atmosphere he is entering. He walks into the kitchen area, loosening his tie, and asks in a completely normal, casual tone, "Hey, honey, I'm starving. Is dinner ready yet? And wow, this place is a bit of a disaster zone today, isn't it?" To Layla, in her current state of extreme physiological and emotional arousal, these innocent words are not a simple question or observation. They feel like a direct, vicious, personal attack on her competence as a wife and mother. It is the absolute final grain of sand that breaks the camel's back. Her eyes widen in disbelief, then narrow immediately into fiery, glowing slits. The glowing red smoke around her intensifies rapidly, swirling faster and hotter, creating a visible, shimmering heat haze in the kitchen air that distorts her vision. A low, guttural, animalistic growl begins to rise in her throat, bypassing her rational mind completely. The pressure inside her chest is unbearable. The explosion is now inevitable and cannot be stopped. Layla snaps completely. The dam breaks. She spins around violently to face Ahmed, her beautiful face contorted into a terrifying, unrecognizable mask of pure, uncontrolled, primal fury. She opens her mouth and screams at the top of her lungs, unleashing a torrent of angry, hurtful words, accusations, and pent-up frustrations that have been building for weeks. As she yells, thick, billowing clouds of intensely hot, blazing orange and deep crimson smoke erupt violently from her mouth and entire body, filling the kitchen volume in seconds. Bright, angry, scorching sparks fly wildly from her gesturing hands like fireworks, singing the air around her. The normal lighting of the room is completely drowned out, replaced instantly by an aggressive, pulsating, hellish red glow that casts terrifying, flickering shadows on the walls. Ahmed takes an involuntary, shocked step back, his face a mixture of disbelief and fear. Little Sophia, still on the floor near the juice spill, covers her ears with her hands and begins to cry loudly, terrified by the sight of her mother transformed into this unrecognizable creature of fire and smoke. In this moment, Layla is completely consumed by the anger. She is merely a vessel for the destructive fire within, blind and deaf to the immediate, devastating damage she is causing to the people she loves most in the world. The intense, fiery, volcanic outburst ends as abruptly as a light switch being flipped, leaving behind a deafening, suffocating, heavy silence in the kitchen that feels thicker than the smoke that just cleared. The magical red glow and thick smoke dissipate rapidly, revealing the stark, ugly reality of the scene in the harsh, unforgiving fluorescent kitchen light. Layla stands panting in the center of the room, her chest heaving violently, the massive adrenaline crash hitting her physical body hard, making her limbs tremble. She looks around, seeing the world through clear, horrified eyes for the first time in minutes. The broken glass and spreading red juice stain are still on the floor, now accompanied by a shattered ceramic bowl she knocked over in her blind rage. But the real, devastating damage is in the faces of her family. Ahmed stands motionless against the counter, a look of profound, quiet hurt, disappointment, and utter disbelief etched deeply onto his face. He is not angry back at her. He just looks deeply wounded and alienated. Little Sophia is huddled tightly against his leg, sniffling quietly, her large, tear-filled eyes wide with abject terror as she looks at her own mother, as if looking at a dangerous stranger she doesn't recognize. The full realization of what she has just done crashes down on Layla with the force of a physical blow to the gut. The heat leaves her body instantly, replaced by a cold, sickening wave of absolute shame that washes over her from head to toe. Unable to bear the pained, accusing looks of her husband and child for another agonizing second, Layla turns sharply and flees the kitchen like a coward, rushing blindly into the small downstairs powder room. She slams the door behind her with trembling hands and immediately fumbles to lock it, needing a physical barrier between her and the destruction she caused. She leans heavily against the sink, gasping for air, as if she's been running, hot tears beginning to stream uncontrollably down her burning cheeks. She slowly, painfully lifts her head to look into the mirror above the sink. The reflection that stares back at her is horrifying and unrecognizable. Her face is blotchy and swollen, tear-stained. Her beautiful hijab is completely disheveled, and her eyes are bloodshot and wild. But it's the metaphysical state that shocks her most deeply. In the mirror's reflection, faint, wispy tendrils of dark, acrid, charcoal-colored smoke are still curling slowly from her ears and open mouth. Her eyes still hold a faint, dying, malignant ember of the orange rage that consumed her. She sees herself not as a loving mother, but as a monster, a destroyer of her own peace and her family's sanctuary. A deep, overwhelming sense of self-loathing and regret fills her chest, feeling like a heavy stone. She whispers fiercely to her reflection, voice cracking, "What is wrong with you? How could you do that to them? You ruin everything you touch." She sinks utterly defeated to the cold tiled floor, burying her face in her hands, sobbing under the crushing, unbearable weight of her guilt. After some unmeasured time sobbing on the bathroom floor, Layla tries desperately to pull herself together and calm her racing heart using the standard worldly methods she knows. She stands up on shaky legs and tries taking deep, measured, diaphragmatic breaths, counting to 10 slowly and audibly as she's read in countless self-help articles. She turns on the cold water tap full blast and splashes freezing cold water onto her burning face and neck repeatedly, hoping to shock her physical system into calmness. She tries feebly to rationalize her behavior in her own mind. "I'm just so tired. It was an incredibly long day. They pushed me." But the excuses feel hollow, false, and inadequate in the face of the genuine fear she saw in her daughter's eyes. None of these superficial techniques work to extinguish the deep-seated, burning ember of agitation, shame, and self-reproach still smoldering fiercely in her chest. The physical symptoms of the stress response, the elevated, pounding heart rate, the shallow, tight breathing, the rigid tension in her shoulders, remain stubbornly present. The internal fire within is not something that can be put out with simple physical tricks. Its roots are deeper, spiritual, and it demands a different kind of remedy that she hasn't yet grasped in her moment of panic. Driven by a sudden, inexplicable, instinctive spiritual impulse born of sheer desperation and a buried subconscious memory of prophetic advice regarding anger, Layla turns back to the sink. Without a conscious plan or thought process, she begins to perform Wudu, ritual ablution. She starts by whispering a trembling Bismillah, in the name of Allah. As the cool, clear water first touches her hands, then her mouth, then splashes onto her face, a miraculous transformation begins to occur. The physical sensation of the cool water feels incredibly soothing, almost divine, like a healing balm applied directly to a severe burn. With each part of her body she washes with intention, her arms up to the elbows, wiping her head, washing her feet, the lingering, stubborn heat deep in her body seems to be physically drawn out through her skin and washed away down the drain with the water. The faint, stubborn tendrils of smoke that had been clinging to her aura completely dissipate and vanish. The angry red undertones in her skin fade away, replaced by a cleaner, cooler, paler pallor. The spiritual act of purification is having a direct, tangible effect on her physical and emotional state, actively cooling the fires of Ghadab at their very source. By the time she finishes the ritual, she feels physically lighter, significantly cooler in temperature, and mentally clearer than she has in hours, the fog of rage lifted. Feeling physically cooler from the water, but emotionally raw and hollow after performing wudu, Layla steps shakily out of the bathroom and walks quietly into the bedroom, needing a sanctuary. She unfolds her prayer mat in a calm corner, the simple action bringing a sense of grounding. She sits down heavily on the mat, knees bent, hands clasped tightly in her lap, gazing blankly at the patterns on the floor. In this newfound stillness, removed from the scene of her crime in the kitchen, painful clarity begins to return. A profound hadith of the Prophet Muhammad that she learned long ago surfaces wildly in her mind. The strong man is not the one who can overpower others in wrestling. Rather, the strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry. The absolute truth of these words pierces her heart like an arrow. She realizes with devastating clarity that her explosion wasn't strength, it was profound, damaging weakness. True strength would have been containing that fire, protecting her vulnerable family from her own internal heat. The shame transforms into a deep, humble desire for real change. Driven to her knees by this realization and the weight of her guilt, Layla raises her trembling hands in sincere, desperate dua, supplication. Tears begin to fall again, but these are no longer the hot, acidic tears of rage. They are the cool, cleansing tears of true repentance and brokenness. Ya Allah, she whispers, her voice cracking, forgive me for losing control. Forgive me for being a source of fear instead of safety for the precious souls you entrusted to my care. I am weak, my Lord. My fuse is too short. Please grant me Sabr. Pour your divine coolness upon my heart when the fire tries to rise again. As she prays sincerely, pouring her heart out, a beautiful, subtle shift occurs internally. The lingering, tight tension in her chest finally dissolves. A soft, serene, cool white and mint green, divine light seems to descend physically upon her, entering her chest and filling the space where the anger had burned so hotly. It feels like a soothing internal balm, bringing a profound, stabilizing peace she hasn't felt in months. She feels washed clean, inside and out. Fortified by the sincere prayer and the newfound stabilizing coolness in her heart, Layla stands up slowly from the mat, and walks quietly back towards the living area to face the consequences. The atmosphere in the house is still thick with tension and silence. Ahmed is sitting on the couch, looking dejected and weary, with Sophia snuggled anxiously beside him, thumb in her mouth. Layla enters the room gently, her presence no longer threatening, but radiating a soft, calm humility and sorrow. She approaches them slowly and kneels down on the rug so she is completely eye level with Sophia and Ahmed. She looks directly into their eyes. "Ahmed, Sophia," she begins, her voice soft, steady, and filled with regret. "I am so sorry for how I acted in the kitchen. Mommy lost control completely, and that was very wrong of me. It was not your fault, Sophia. I was tired, but that is absolutely no excuse to yell and scare you like that. Please, can you forgive me?" Her genuine remorse is palpable in the room. As she speaks, the heavy, cold tension seems to physically lift. Ahmed's expression softens from hurt to cautious relief. Ahmed nods slowly, accepting the apology with grace, and Sophia, sensing that her mother is safe again, tentatively moves from Ahmed's side and throws her arms around Layla's neck. Layla holds her daughter tightly, breathing in her scent, silent tears of immense gratitude falling onto Sophia's shoulder. "Let's go fix this mess together," Layla suggests gently, standing up and taking Sophia's hand. They all return to the kitchen. The scene is radically transformed. The angry red glow and psychic smoke are completely gone, replaced by normal, warm evening light. Together, as a family, they clean up the broken glass shards and wipe up the sticky red pomegranate juice stain. It is a deeply symbolic act of restoration and teamwork. As they wipe the floor, Layla explains simply to Sophia, "Sometimes Mommy gets a hot fire inside, but I need to remember to use cool water and prayer to put it out before it hurts anyone's feelings. The physical act of cleaning together heals the breach, restoring the safe, cozy atmosphere of the home." A few days have passed, and life has returned to normal. Layla is back in the kitchen after another long, tiring day. The scene mirrors the earlier trigger. She is fatigued, dinner is late. Suddenly, Sophia, playing excitedly nearby, accidentally knocks over a large bowl of dry cereal, scattering it loudly across the freshly swept floor with a massive crash. The familiar trigger hits Layla hard. For a split second, her shoulders tense instinctively, and the old internal heat flares threateningly in her chest. The faint scent of charcoal smoke threatens to reappear. But this time, she catches it instantly. She closes her eyes and immediately takes a deep, slow, conscious breath, whispering, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," internally. Instead of an eruption of fire, a calming wave of cool, aqua-blue light washes over her from head to toe, extinguishing the spark before it becomes a flame. She opens her eyes, lets out a calm sigh, and smiles wearily but gently at Sophia. "Uh-oh, a big accident. It's okay. Let's get the broom together." She consciously chose Sabr. Layla looks directly into the camera lens, her face calm, warm, and radiating a quiet, stable strength born of experience. The background is her peaceful, tidy living room, restored to harmony. "Anger is like a single spark," she says gently, her voice firm with conviction. If we don't contain it immediately with the cool water of patience and remembrance of Allah, it can burn down everything we love in seconds. She pauses, connecting genuinely with the viewer. True strength isn't about how loudly you can yell when things go wrong. It's about the quiet, immense power of holding back when everything inside you wants to explode. That pause, that deep breath, that whisper for God's help, that is Sabr. It is the coolness of the heart that saves our homes from destruction. She smiles peacefully. Protect your peace, guard your tongue. When the fire rises, choose the cool water of patience.